In this video, I will give you a brief glimpse into how I approach the process of creating a permaculture landscape design. A landscape designed with permaculture is one that is focused upon producing an abundance of food for the inhabitants of the site, wildlife included, while also building soil and fertility without the use of synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, or herbicide. The specific goals will vary widely based on the context of the site and the wishes of the client, and that is where the design process begins, with the client interview. The client and I walk through the site, talking about the goals of the project and making observations about what is already in place. A client who has been living on the site will have gathered a wealth of information, whether they realize it or not, all of which is important and may be an important factor in creating a functional design. Observation and analysis are fundamental to permaculture, and I will try to gather as much information as possible about the site, the people living there, and what they hope to achieve. This is done mostly by asking questions, listening, and observing. Included in the observation analysis are soil tests, which help to determine the soil's composition, structure, and pH. One of these tests is done by simply filling a clear jar about halfway with soil. Then the jar is filled with water and a bit of dish detergent to help separate the particles. After a good shake of the jar, the soil is allowed to settle. The sand will settle on the bottom, the silt on top of that, the clay on top of that, and any organic matter will float to the top. This sample is about 80% sand, 15% silt, and 5% clay, making it a sandy loam or loamy sand soil. Understanding the soil is key to determining which plants will grow and function well in a given environment. The information gathered about the soil, along with the local climate and weather patterns, is then used to create a comprehensive list of plants which are suited to the site conditions. The plants are grouped together according to the ecological niche they occupy, such as overstory trees, understory shrubs, ground covers, and vining plants, and then put into a folder for the client to keep. Although all of these plants may not end up in the final design, the list is a great reference for the client as they shop for plants in the local nurseries, and lets them know what plant possibilities they have to work with into the future. Another important step in gathering information about the site is creating a base map on which to build the design drawings, as well as taking measurements to position the existing structures and plants upon that map. This is mostly done by a very old and simple method of triangulation. The distance to an element is measured from two different reference points along a straight line, such as this fence. The measurements are then transferred to the map as a radius of a circle, centered on the reference points. The element is then correctly positioned at the intersection of these two circles. This process is repeated for every tree, plant, and structure on the property, so that an exact scale map can be created. While I am walking the site to take all of these measurements, I am continuing to gather information about the site and make observations, identifying the plants already existing on the site, and possibly even encountering the local wildlife. As I work, I try to keep my awareness open to things like temperature changes, wind patterns, microclimates, slopes, and soil moisture. Every piece of information is important, and as I learn more about the site, existing and potential connections reveal themselves. Only after gathering a significant amount of information can I start to actually put together the design and create the design drawings, beginning with the water flow map. Capturing and storing rainwater is essential to building a resilient food system, and this map lays out the various elements that will be used to direct, capture, and store water within the soil. It shows where water will enter the site, where and how it will flow across the landscape, and in the event of a very large rain event, how it will safely and slowly exit the property. Once the physical structure of the design is laid out, I can begin to position the different layers of plants and animal systems, placing specific plants based upon the observations and information I have been gathering. And all the while, the human element is considered to ensure that the design will be beneficial for those who are taking care of it. The design is laid out in a series of scale maps that can be used by the client to build the system over time, or given to a landscape contractor for a quicker installation. Whichever path the client chooses, I remain available for consultation and guidance throughout the implementation of the design and into the future as the plant community grows and matures into an ecosystem that will require less and less maintenance over time, while producing a growing abundance of food for people and wildlife. There's far more that goes into a permaculture landscape design that can be showed in this short video. If you would like to learn more about permaculture and my design services, please visit earthcaredesign.com.